Hey everybody, welcome to Kent with Bent number 114. Wet Hot American Hovind. Because I needed a USA themed title for today, and that seemed like a good one. So, there we are. We are doing this at a different time, because basically, at the time we would normally do this, myself and Bent are going to be doing some America themed celebrations. So,
Yes.
there you go. Benthic Tunicate B2022, who's been a member for 3 months and is at the amniote level, says, "Why would you make us imagine Hovind as either hot or wet? Why, Dapper? Why?" Because it's horrifying and hilarious. I also want to note that we just passed the 78-day mark for Sal being bitch-made in saying that he was going to both watch and respond to my Sal's Pal series, while not watching and then pretending to respond, because you can't respond to something you've never actually seen. That's how it works. Zero Lawn says booze and explosions. Well, there's gonna be booze right now, and there will be explosions later. I don't know if there will be booze and explosions together. So, yeah, who knows?
It's possible,
It
but
is possible.
we'll see.
All right, so, oh, and Fear, if we evolved from African Americans monger, goodness, has just put into the chat the bingo card if you want to play bingo. Do be aware, I am not in charge of the bingo. That is a fan effort, and so if you have complaints, please direct it at the people who are in charge in the Discord over in the bingo section. So if you have like, oh, Dapper, you should do this instead on bingo, you're asking the wrong guy. All right, so it is Tuesday. We are doing our drinking game, so let's go over the rules for that. First of all, if Kent Hovind says something that's so stupid, I need to cool my brain down, we take a drink. That's probably our most common trigger. It's almost every time I stop him. Not every time, though. Sometimes he's just like a little wrong, and I'm like, okay. We will take a drink anytime he gets something factually correct without it just being a direct quote. So, for instance, if if he's like, oh, this and this and this is true, and it is, but he's just reading from Scientific American or something, it doesn't count. He actually has to know it, and it has to, start in his brain, down underneath the the aorta, then back up to the vocal cords, then out. Then we'll count it. I have a couple things to read real quick. Let's see. Titillac Rosie, who's been a member for 3 months and is at the tetrapod level, says, AIG is a toot of schwans, which I think is AIG is a bag of dicks. So we will take a drink for that. And that's one of the things we take a drink for. So we'll describe that now. So, if anyone super chats or milestone chats anything to the effect that AIG are a bag of dicks, which you have to be a little clever with because they'll censor it, then we will take a drink for that. Dark Law Dragon, who's been a member for 14 months, my goodness, is at the tetrapod level, says, Godzilla, Mothra, King Ghidorah, AIG's bag of dicks, drink, all via emojis, which also triggers our, if you send a kaiju emoji, we will take a drink. That's in a milestone or membership, or, milestone chat or a super chat. Take a drink for that. Now, in order to send those, you do have to be a channel member. So there's that. Now, Savage Mammals evolved in the Eocene Cobra. You guys with these names are gonna kill me. Has just sent 5 Dapper Dinosaur memberships, which went to Skeletor over 9,000, The Gay Bead, HL Aristoteles, April Van Ryn, and Atomic Squirrels. Everybody, welcome them, please, to the channel with some Cecil Tunicates. You don't even have Vishanti here poisoning your mind about this. But this brings up the next one, which is we will take a drink for each gifted membership up to about like 30 or so, in which case, if you give 30 at a time. Oh, she is here. Darn it. She's here poisoning your minds with her pelagic tunicate propaganda. All right, so we'll take 5 drinks for those, because it's 1 per one. This needs to be stirred more. Give me a second. Oh, that was strong. Okay, here we go. 2. Oh, much better. 3. 4. And 5. Yeah, I'm drinking a gin and tonic, but apparently I didn't stir it enough, and I just drank
Mostly gin.
just gin. Yeah, I was like, ooh,
Yeah.
that was intense. Okay. Inkboy for €2 says, "Happy July 4th, 413 years ago, Poland took Moscow." Nice. Way to go, Poland. It is not an easy city to take. Soulcat, who's been a member for 4 months, says, "Happy defeat of the aliens day." Yes, thank you. Royland Hutchins, who's been a member for 15 months, is at the tetrapod level, says, "AIG is a bag of dicks." Got with the Godzilla, so we'll take a drink for that. Then says, "Kent Hovind, get bent," followed by a God-fearing, hard-working, patriotic Cecil Tunicate. The right kind of Tunicate. And then, of course, Dr. Dino for $5 says, "Ahoy, mates, I might have a chance to fight with Kent this Thursday. Goal is to make him call a dinosaur a bird. Wish me luck. Now time to edit stuff. Good luck, man." All right. Let's see. I think that is us caught up there. So, we covered AIG's a bag of dicks. We covered Godzilla emojis. We covered gifted memberships. And I think that's all the ones that you guys can cause us to take drinks for. So we'll go back to we covered Kent getting things right and wrong. Also, if Kent Hovind tells a joke that didn't land or tells a story that didn't happen, we'll take a drink. Joke that didn't land is pretty obvious. If Kent tells a joke, no one laughs, we take a drink. A story that didn't happen is a bit of a judgment call, but if, for instance, Kent tells some great story about how he won this amazing argument with a Berkeley professor on an airplane, but it sounds suspiciously more like an argument he had with a shampoo bottle in his shower, rather than, an actual thing that actually happened involving an actual human, we'll take a drink for that. We'll also take a drink if Kent Hovind mentions the National Socialist German Workers' Party, or mentions various of their, shall we say, more infamous members or leaders, or their various historically significant activities in the mid-20th century especially. If you don't know what the National Socialist German Workers' Party is, I encourage you to Google it. It will be pretty clear pretty fast. Let's see. If Bent or I can predict what's coming... Oh! We'll take a drink for that Godzilla, I forgot. If Godzilla comes by audibly, we take a drink for him. Same thing with Mothra. If Bent or I can predict what Kent is going to say, when it's not clear what his next argument is going to be, we'll take a drink for that. Now, this one comes up less with Kent than with other people, but it's called Trojan Source. If Kent cites a source and we check it, and not only does it not support him, but directly contradicts his point, we take a drink for Trojan Source. If it just doesn't support, that doesn't count. And I think that's basically it for Kent with Bent. Bent, have I forgotten any?
No, you remembered them all once again.
Nice. See,
A+.
Bent has them written down to check me, but I always try to go from the top of my brain, or the bottom of my brain. I don't know how brains work. But
you have it organized pretty well in your head.
Yeah. All right, we got a few more things to read. Savage, mammals evolved in the Eocene cobra for $5, says 160 years ago, the U.S. Army took Vicksburg, thereby cutting the Slaver Rebellion in half. Okay. Lance Hall for $10 says, Kent is a fail-logic Tunicant. That's... Okay, I get it. I like it. And Ica Gravity does not act on gas, Russ. Oh my goodness, yeah. From Jackson with Jackson. God, for €2 says, Happy Independence Day. Also, 36-month badge. Yes, you do have a 36-month badge. That is a very rare thing. Yeah, that means that you have, in total, been a member on the channel for 3 full years. Which also means if your membership lapses, like, your time is saved, but it doesn't keep adding, right? So if you actually were a member for, like, 12 months and you took a month off, and then you were back for, like, 24, only at the end of that 24 would you actually get the 36-month badge. So that's a pretty impressive achievement, really. So thank you. I think Bent and you are some of the only people who had that, because I think basically like 3 or 4 people joined like the first month that it was available.
Mm-hmm.
And so they're going to be the ones who get it first, and slowly it'll trickle down into a few other people. But I think that is it for us for Super Chats that we've had so far, as well as rules, which means it's time to get back to Kent Hovind. Now, Kent Hovind was recently giving us a weirdly wrong story about the original reconstruction of Brontosaurus, and its later being not a valid taxon. he got most of it wrong, which is weird because there's really no reason for him to get any of it wrong because none of the actual story is in any way more like harmful to his position. But yeah, let's see what he has for us next. And if we have to go back and talk about that again, then we'll mention it. Also, let me know how audio levels are going because as of last week, what used to just be audio levels that worked fine have apparently gone all crazy, and it's all now just chaos. So please let me know if there's a problem.
Yeah, please let us know.
That one of those never existed, but there were many just like that. Okay, the Apatosaurus and the Diplodocus were mixed.
By the way, it wasn't an Apatosaurus and a Diplodocus. It was it was an Apatosaurus. Actually, he might be right about that. Now that I think about it, never mind. I'm not going to call him wrong on that one because I honestly have just forgotten. I used to know off the top of my head, but then basically, once Brontosaurus came back as a valid genus, I just kind of brain dumped the entire story of how it became a not real genus in the first place, and that included with it like the weird weird reconstruction story
To make the Brontosaurus. But Job is probably describing, or God is probably describing to Job a Brachiosaurus, that's my guess, for the arm lizard, because he apparently is the biggest one. And I tell people, of course, we have the Blondosaurus. You have to talk to her very slow. Right, Becky?
Wow. Not only was that a joke that didn't land, it was a sexist joke that didn't land. Fun times. The Gay Beats is Chimerosaurus. There we go. Yeah, that sounds about right. Yeah, like I said, I kind of brain dumped that entire story after it no longer was really relevant anymore because, I mean, I've only got so much room in my head, guys. So, okay. Yeah, of course, Kent. So here's the thing about Kent, right? Kent is habitually, casually bigoted, but he then hides behind the fact that he's rarely, like, actively attacking people for, like, their race or sex or anything. But then he'll just tell casually sexist and racist jokes all the time, right? Like, you typically don't hear him saying things like, oh, you know, the American Indians were all terrible. And yeah, he definitely called them at least American Indians. He probably just called them Indians. But then he had a native woman, I think she was Navajo or something, who visited, and he just casually asks her, like, hey, how many people have you scalped? It's like, jeez, Kent.
Golly.
Come
Why
on.
would he do that?
Because that's the thing. He's casually racist. He's not going around using lots of racial slurs or anything, but he's still a racist. He's just one that's like, it's sort of in the background. Which isn't really helpful. That just means that you know it's wrong, and you're only saying it when you think maybe you can get away with it, because it's just a joke. Savage Mammals Evolved in the Eocene Cobra for $2 says, Job, is that an old Cantonese name? Oh yeah, because Kent told us earlier in this that he thinks that because the book of Job says it happens in the East, that by East they mean China. Despite the fact that Chaldean raiders come and attack Job's farm, and Chaldeans are from, like, Mesopotamia.
Mhm.
So I guess they traveled all across, like, Central Asia to get into the East Asia, across the Himalayas, I guess. I don't know. It's a long way to go to get some camels. Which also, I mean, you can get camels in China, but, like, it's not a commonly domesticated animal in China. China's more about oxen and horses and whatnot. But, hey, what do I know? Okay.
Got this blonde hair too, I understand. God said he eats grass as an ox. Now, because of the description of this animal in the next few verses, some people have tried to guess what it was. And some Bible scholars say it's an elephant or hippopotamus because elephants and hippos eat grass. But that's true.
I mean, it is. Elephants prefer things besides grass, but they do eat grass. So I guess we'll take a drink. It is true that elephants and hippos do both eat grass. Yeah. In fact, actually, everyone thinks of hippos as basically like aquatic, but they actually spend almost all their time feeding out of water, and they come out of the water during the day, or sorry, during the night, to feed on land plants. They actually don't do much feeding in the water. Titillac Rosie for 50 Vietnamese dong says, my favorite pastime is watching a horned lizard effortlessly slam dunk a tax evading bus driver. Okay. Here we go.
But you need to look at the next verse. His strength is in his loins, and his force is in the navel of his belly. The biggest part on him is his belly.
Okay, so here's one thing. That describes basically every primarily herbivorous animal out there. And the reason is pretty simple. Plants are hard to digest, right? If you're eating leaves, especially if you're eating grass, which we don't have any evidence of Diplodocus eating grass, or Brontosaurus eating grass, or Apatosaurus eating grass, or Giraffe Titan, I guess. But anyway, yeah, plant matter is hard to digest. Cellulose is, of necessity, a very tough sugar. It's what makes up the cell wall around plants. And very few animals can digest it really at all. Humans really can't, which is one of the reasons why humans cook vegetables. If you don't cook your vegetables, they're actually harder to digest, and you will get less nutrition per piece of plant if it's uncooked versus cooked if you're a human. So basically, you just have to spend a lot of time digesting plant matter. And so the easiest way to have a long digestion process is to have a big curly gut, right? Your small intestines curl around. You know that from anatomy class. But if you had to eat nothing but leaves, or primarily leaves, you would need a lot more intestine. And what's the easiest way to get that? We'll just curl it more. Have it be longer. And that requires a higher volume, so you get a bigger gut. So a lot of animals have really big guts, especially side to side. Like if you look at a cow from the side on, it doesn't look like it has that big of a gut. Look at it from the front or from the top, though. And it's like, oh, it's very round right there in the middle. All right, now let's see. Vandelli 1998 says, for $5, Dapper and Vishanti need to have an official Palash Tunicate versus Cecil Tunicate debate to end the war once and for all. I don't see why there's a debate. I mean, obviously I'm right about this. So.
But you gotta prove it, though.
I don't. It's just self-evident.
If you say so.
I just did. All right, let's keep going.
Some people say, well, hey, elephants have a big belly.
They do.
Yep, they sure do. Hippopotamus have a big belly.
It's odd because he's actually showing us the view of the animals where the belly seems the least big. Like, show us from the top down, Ken. It's more effective that way. But okay.
I've seen them. They got a big belly. Brachiosaurus has a big belly. Actually, he has a big belly.
Yeah, I'm actually going to have to say that having a big belly is not a distinguishing characteristic that you can use to determine what animal is being talked about in Job. But also, am I the only one who's tired of the Job or Behemoth is a sauropod thing? It's so tired and so boring. Yeah. And yeah, no kidding, sumo wrestlers have big bellies.
So that doesn't tell you which animal it is. A lot of animals have a big belly.
Oh, that was apparently a joke, and it didn't land. So we'll take a drink. Good job, Kent. Also, please do hit like, guys. I am seeing some 30-something of you who have not hit like. Or actually, no, like 27 or something of you. Please do hit like. It really does help the channel out a lot.
And a lot of animals eat grass. So you look at the next verse. He moveth his tail like a cedar. Oh, now here we have a clue that would start eliminating other animals. His tail is like a cedar tree.
Okay. So there's a cedar tree. Get a nice trunk with some bushy bits at the end. And his tail, he moveth his tail like a cedar tree. So his tail is moving like a cedar tree moves. How do cedar trees move? Well, they go back and forth in the wind, like trees do.
Have you seen the tail of an elephant?
Yes. Have you seen the tail of an elephant?
Yes.
All right, we have to ask the audience.
Yes, I have.
All right, start a poll. Have you seen the tail of an elephant? Yes, no, and of course, the vital turtle option.
Right. Can't forget the turtle.
Right, it's very important. All right, here we go.
Does that remind you of a cedar tree?
It does, actually, yeah. In that it has a long section at the base with no particular hairs, then it has a bushy section, and it sways back and forth. Yep. Because you'll notice that the tail moves like a cedar tree. It's not the size of a cedar tree. It's not just like a cedar tree in some undefined way. It's how it moves. And I would say that, yes, this in fact does move a bit like a cedar tree. The South Geek Unofficial has just gifted 1 Dapper Dinosaur membership, which went to Trippy Liquids. So everyone, don't send pelagic tunicates. They'll scare everyone away. Send sessile tunicates and tetrapods. But we will also take a drink for that. Okay, here we go.
And no. How about the tail of a hippopotamus? That's not like...
I'm sorry. The Southgate official says, apparently memberships are working, super chats are not. Were you trying to send a super chat, Southgeek unofficial? If so, that's weird. That's something that I haven't seen people been having problems with. Are you like on a phone? Let me know what the situation is. Oh yeah, Vishanti says, tell the audience how hippos use their tail when they poop. So when a hippo poops, it shakes its tail vigorously, which flings dung all over the place, because this is one of the methods that hippos use to mark their territory. So, don't stare near a hippopotamus that's pooping. It's really, really not good. And Mark Smith says, wrong cedar. He's also right about that. Yeah, the cedar tree used by Kent Hovind there was an American cedar, whereas the cedar tree almost certainly referenced in Job is a Lebanese cedar, which is, the cedar known to the authors. Also, I'm not an expert on cedar trees, but I don't think there's too many Chinese cedar trees. So I could be wrong about that, though, guys. Let me know if you're a cedar tree expert, or if you can just find out that there's a Chinese cedar tree. Please do let me know. Pillowpunk for $2 says, not even the right kind of cedar, Kent, with a Mothra emoji, and we will take a drink. Yeah. And of course, Lebanese cedar is a less sturdy tree than the American cedar, which bends significantly less in the wind. So yeah, it's getting all sorts of stuff wrong today.
He's good at it.
Yeah.
Lots of practice.
Arachamian says, how about you just don't stand next to a hippo without any qualifications? Yeah, okay. Fair. Hippos are one of the most dangerous animals in the world. They kill more people than any other animal besides mosquitoes in Africa. So, yeah. Now, mosquitoes are by far the most dangerous animal in the world. And also, hey, in the last few months, the U.S. has had 5 locally contracted cases of malaria. So malaria is back in the U.S., everybody. Fun times. 4 in Florida, 1 in Texas. That's just great. It's great knowing that my country has malaria again. I say again because, obviously the U.S. had malaria for millennia. And then, the American government got rid of it. And now it's just back. So that's great. That's why I'm drinking a gin and tonic right now. It's for the quinine, just in case I catch malaria. Because you never know. I could catch malaria.
You never know. You could.
Like a cedar tree either, right? About that big, right? This has to be an animal with a huge tail like a tree.
Why, Kent? Why is it that moving like a tree requires you to be the size of a tree? I would argue the opposite, that there is no need to correlate the size. In fact, if I said, hey, that remote control thing moves like a car, and what I'm pointing to is just a remote control car, am I saying that remote control car is the size of a real car? No, it's probably not, but it still moves like a car, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Have you ever seen those drone planes that people do like stunt tricks with? It's like a competition, like they have rings set up in like a field, and they'll fly their little prop plane through it, or through the rings and stuff, all remote controlled. Yeah, those move like real planes. But they're not the size of real planes, like actual like Cessnas or something. Yeah, there's no reason to correlate these. In fact, I think it's actually dishonest. I think he knows better. Because I don't think Kent's quite that stupid. So we're actually just going to take a drink for that.
Which would be the Brachiosaurus, or an animal similar to that. Next verse says, his bones are as strong pieces of brass. His bones are like bars of iron. He has big bones.
No, it's strong bones, which often means big, but okay.
And this is my knuckle next to a Brachiosaurus toe bone, which I have in my suitcase I take on display when I go speak at churches. That's a toe bone. Now, I got this in Texas, at Glen Rose, Texas. Mr. Emmett McFall owned a large ranch, and the river that ran right through his property was the Paluxy River, where the dinosaur and human footprints are found. I took a busload of students over there back, it would have been probably early 80s, 80, 81 maybe. We got to meet Emmett McFall before he died. He was an old...
I just realized why I didn't have the right timestamp. I'm using the old video that has the bad audio for this.
Oh.
Sorry, guys.
That explains the whining.
So I'll tell you what, guys. We're going to hit yes on this. We're going to end this poll. And then here's what I'm going to ask now. So first, have you seen The Tale of an Elephant? 60% said yes. 31% said turtle. 7% said no. And that's with 75 votes. So what we're going to do is we're going to do a quick poll. Should I switch videos? Yes, no. And what'll probably happen is we'll go until at least the break with this video. And then if you guys care enough, we'll switch the video to the one that has the better audio. If you don't care enough, then we won't. Do be aware that if we do switch, it'll probably prolong the break a little bit. So there's the trade-off, is that we will be on break for slightly longer. So let's ask the community that. And the South Geek Unofficial for €5 says, last try now for my phone. Oh, okay. Let's see. I'm not going to get this right, so please forgive me. Antworten in der Schöpfung ist ein Sack voller Pimmel? Roughly? Not even sure what language we're going for here. Think it's German. I don't know enough German to know that for certain. Also, a like a day keeps the Bilbo away and makes Dapper happy. Yes, unless you want to hear me quote Bilbo, hit like, and we will take a drink for what I'm very confident is an AIG is a bag of dicks. All right. I'm glad it worked, though.
Man. And he had quite a few bones of dinosaur that he had found on his property. He had found, I think, just about the entire foot of a brachiosaurus, they believe, or some large sauropod. And he was selling bone by bone. I said, how much do you want for one of those? He said, for the little one there, $20.
So this might be confusing to some people. I want to talk about the U.S. and how fossil ownership in the U.S. works. So the U.S. follows a very strict version of the ad infinitum doctrine, which is to say that when you own a plot of land, if you continue that land down to the center of the earth, basically in like a cone, that is what you actually own. You own anything under your land, directly under, in a ever decreasing in size cone all the way to the center of the earth. Now, do you have any practical way to get at things 4 miles underneath your home? No, but technically you own it. And if someone were to tunnel under your land and grab minerals from there, they would be stealing from you and they could hypothetically be prosecuted. But this also includes fossils. If fossils in the United States are found on private land, they belong to the landowner. There is no national ownership of all fossils in the United States like there are in many other countries, like I believe Peru and China do that. So, if you have fossils on your land, you can do whatever you want with them. You can give them to a museum, you can sell them, you can, grind them up as an aphrodisiac and mix them into your tea. Whatever. There's not a rule saying what you can and can't do aside from crimes, right? You can't use one as a murder implement or something, right? But yeah, basically anything else that you could do with any other rock that you find, you can do with fossils on your land. Now, this is not popular with most of paleontology. I'm not a huge fan myself. I do think there is scientific value in most fossils. It's why I am iffy on the private fossil trade, especially for scientifically significant things. Now, if you're you found the 18 millionth little Devonian trilobite of one species on your land and you want to sell that, whatever, I don't really care. Those aren't really very scientifically significant. But dinosaur bones are. And so that's a lot of people get confused about this because in most countries, fossils belong to the state no matter where they're found. So yeah, that is not how it works in the US. Also, in case you're wondering, there's a contra to ad infinitum, ad colum, which basically says you also own the sky above your land. and that people can't build there without your permission. So that's why in the US at least, sometimes you get skyscrapers that are strangely shaped with a weird cutout to accommodate someone who wouldn't sell their house. And so they can't cover the house. They have to just have a cutout through the entire floor plan. Let's see. Vandalian 1998 says, but isn't anytime Ken speaks, it's bad sounds in your ear? I mean, yeah, but there's worse and better versions, right? It's not all the same, but it's all bad. Pillowpunk for $2 says, if that story is true, the farmer was an idiot. Yeah, he probably could have sold that for a lot more than $20, but here's what I'll say. I do think that the basic idea of the story, where Kent bought this from a farmer who found bones on his land from this early Cretaceous site, is probably true. And probably not a Brachiosaurus, because being early Cretaceous, these are probably Titanosaur bones and not Brachiosaur bones, but I mean, whatever. So yeah, I think the basic idea of guy found big bones on his land, Kent bought one, even the idea that they're sauropod bones, probably pretty reasonable. So the exact price, I don't care that much about it. It's if he's misquoting it a bit, it's like among my worries with Kent, him saying $20 instead of the actual like 35 or whatever it was. It's not a big deal to me. But yeah, he probably could have got a lot more than that.
I thought he was going to say 200. I still would have said yes. When he said 20, I said, okay, I'll take it. So
yeah, that's what I would do too. I had something like that. I ordered a delivery, and some of my delivery didn't get there, and so they were like, "Okay, we'll issue a refund. It was this much each, and they had 2 of them, right?" And the thing they quoted me was like the non-sale price, but the thing was on sale, and I just said, "Yep, that's it.
You got it.
Just shut up." Yeah, what can I say? I'm willing to let faceless corporations give me more money than they could have. Arachamian for $10 says, I just recently learned my favorite dinosaur genus name, and for-profit fossil trading led directly to that name. Irritator Challenger. Yeah. Irritator it did get its name because of the hassle to deal with private ownership and whatnot of getting the fossil to actually be able to be studied. It is a spinosaurid dinosaur, if memory serves. And yeah, it's one of my favorite generic names for in Dinosauria. And then Savage Mammals evolved in the Eocene. I'm never not going to laugh at that. Cobra says, can't even tell if it's a dinosaur at all. Him correctly telling the genus might be pushing it. Yeah, no, he's definitely wrong about the genus. Unless he's just completely misreporting the story. So, yeah, he's basically quoting like a bunch of Jurassic sauropod genera, which, to be fair, that's most sauropod genera. And then he's talking about a Cretaceous formation. So, yeah, he's definitely wrong about the genus.
I bought the toe bone off him for $20, and I've had it ever since in my possession. But we make castings of that if you want a copy out of real high-density foam or out of there's several different materials we can use to make castings. They cost more for certain things than others. You can call our ministry and see if you want a real toe bone to have.
No, a real cast of a toe bone.
A replica of a toe bone to have.
There you go.
For whatever reason. Paperweight on your desk or something. We can make it out of hydra stone, and it looks and weighs just about the same as the original. If you make it out of the high-density foam, it looks just like the original, but it just doesn't weigh near as much for transporting around. This is one of the second toe bones from the Brachiosaurus, called a phalange. Now,
oh, hey, he got that right. We'll take a drink. That is what the bone's called. Good job, Kent.
This is National Geographic, 1993. You can see the guy standing next to the foot and leg of a Brachiosaurus. I tell people the reason they had those big toe bones is because they had big toes.
I feel like that was a joke. Was that a joke?
I think that was a terrible joke.
Okay, we'll take a drink.
Did not laugh.
And you can barely see the toe bones on there, and each one is huge, and we have one of them. Here's a kid taking a bath in a footprint of a dinosaur from Glen Rose, Texas. They had a big foot. And, of course, they had the big foot because they had a big leg to hold up. There's a man standing next to the front leg of a Brachiosaurus.
Oh, goodness. Maverick Ronin just gifted 5 Dapper Dinosaur memberships. Awesome. Well, let's take a look at who got them. Herbsman Billiams, a Coyote, Ian Chen Official, Cindy Bidwell Glaze, Nasty, Hobbits, and JT were all gifted memberships. Thank you very much. And let's take 5 drinks. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There we go. Thank you very much. And guys, Bet, you too?
Yeah.
Et
I
tu,
mean-
Bent?
I've been kind of flying under the radar for a while, but yeah. What did you expect?
I thought that you would be on my side.
I can't be on your side when you're wrong.
I am
That's all I can
deeply
say.
offended.
All apology.
Now I don't even know if I can go do America celebrations with you. You won't even
I think you
support
can manage.
the patriotic choice in Tunicates. Are you
Even on a day like today?
even on today? Yeah, the 4th of July, the day of American independence, which was kind of chosen out of a hat because it's not really the day that everything was ratified or signed and whatnot, but whatever, it doesn't matter. On the day on which we celebrate American independence from those horrible British people, and you choose to use pelagic tunicates.
Let me see if I can try it again.
Okay, let's see what happens.
Maybe I can do it. Maybe I can do it right this time.
My goodness, you screwed it up.
Oh, there we go again.
Oh my goodness, this is unacceptable. All right, well, we're gonna end this.
Nothing's new here.
Goodness. Yeah, but I just noticed it.
That's the only thing that's new. It's been happening this whole time.
Yeah, but like, think about it this way. Let's say every time you did laundry, one of your friends came by and stole a sock. You didn't know about it. You were just like, gee, I keep losing socks. What's happening?
So much.
And then later on, you found out that they'd been doing it to you for like a year. You'd have every right to be upset, even though it wasn't new.
No, I think I would be fine with that.
No, you wouldn't. Don't lie. All right. Should I switch videos? 62% says yes, 37% says no, 75 votes. Okay. So what we will do is at the break, I will fire up the better version of this. And then we will get to the same point off air, and then I will come back with the original or the better sound video. Sorry about this. I forgot that I had done that. I don't have an excuse. Also, Brennan, don't sell literal snake oil. Goodness. Let me start that back over. Brennan, I don't sell literal snake oil herring. I love these, you guys. For $5, it says AIG is a bag of chalk, except the chalk has been replaced with Priapulid-shaped organs. Yes! Oh, that's a great one. We'll take a drink for that. That's really good. And that is Brennan. I'm just going to short it to Brennan's first super chat on the channel. So thank you very much for that. That is a great. Nathaniel Gray, who's been a member for 14 months and is at the tetrapod level, says, Happy day of colonial aggression, Godzilla. There you go. Hey, how dare all those, well, that one English king guy, try to use taxation on the colonists who he'd gone into debt defending during a previous war. The very nerve of doing so. And at rates of taxation way lower than any American is paying today. Way lower.
Ridiculous. Isn't it like 5% or something like that?
I mean, it depends because it wasn't an income tax, but like, yeah, it was a really low percentage than most people in the United States pay for taxes.
Yeah.
It was another time, another world. Apology to Truth Official. I did accidentally skip your super chat. I'm sorry about that. It came by around the same time as like 2 others. Sorry about that. Pelagic Tunica Truth Official for €2 says, yes, come to the Pelagic Tunicate side. Let it flow. No. Don't let it flow. Block it up. Keep it all blocked up inside. This is ridiculous, everybody. Okay. Sorry about that. By the way, guys, I do occasionally miss a super chat here and there. Especially if it's one of the ones that's like in the light blue, because those don't show up in the top little section there, so I don't always notice it as easily. Please tag me and remind me, hey, you missed my super chat. I do not want to skip them, but sometimes I make mistakes. So
when the Bible says his bones are like bars of iron, that's a pretty accurate description.
But it would also be an accurate description for an elephant or a hippo, which also have really big, chunky, strong bones. Right? Because if I say something's like iron, usually what I just mean is it's really strong. It doesn't bend easily, and it can take a lot of like compressive or tensile force, right? Because that's what iron is used for. So
I feel like iron can come in multiple varieties of size as well.
Yep. So there's really no good reason to say that this indicates some gigantic size. Also, let me know, guys. How do you like the me having the fan funding up on one side? It makes it harder for me to miss things. So I don't know. Fade to Gray Ultra Official for $2 says, for the gifts, at America Day, I guess. Well, thank you. And in fact, it is gifts. It's not GIFs, no matter what Vishanti says.
True.
They had big, heavy-duty bones. The biggest one now was found in Oklahoma. As far as the tallest one, it's a new world's record. There's at least 3 records for dinosaurs. The tallest, the longest is another record, and the heaviest is a third record. And it's not all the same animal. The one in Oklahoma, they say, was 60 feet tall.
Okay, that guy definitely didn't eat grass, Kent. You know how I can tell? Look where its freaking head is. You tell me which grass grows that tall. What is that, like? That's 2, 4, 6, 8. That's like 12 meters tall. Find me the 12-meter tall grass, Kent. Goodness.
That's huge.
The one they found in China, they said would take them probably 60 years to dig out of the ground. It was, I think, 150 feet long, nose to tail.
The Fallen says it clearly is pronounced yif. No, that's something else. We're not going to talk about that on the channel, though.
Half a football field.
Pelagic Tunic Truth Official says, I'm pretty sure the heaviest animal is the blue whale. I will agree that that is the heaviest animal. However, I think that Kent is restricting this to land-based animals based on the description of Behemoth, which I do think is fair. In fact, if he were to talk about, like, oh, maybe it's the blue whale, I'd say, look, this is clearly a land animal. It's eating grass and hiding in reeds. And so I think it's reasonable of him to keep it to just land animals. Now, Jack DeHarts for £2 says, Happy Independence Day, everyone in the Philippines. Yes, also them. Steve Reno for $2 says, Dappa, say gin, then gif. Okay, I will give you that, and then I will go get another drink. Giving more examples where G is a hard G before an I. Yeah. And if you don't recognize that that's the case, then you're a git. Yeah. Savage Mammals Evolved in the Eocene Cobra says, I ate hyperoxygenated bamboo. Really? Did it taste better than regular bamboo? Because I do like bamboo shoots. Let's see. Quick, what does SCUBA stand for? Self-contained underwater breathing apparatus. Vishanti, that's what it stands for. Self-contained underwater breathing apparatus.
They say it probably weighed about 100 tons when it was alive, and 100 tons is equal to 14 standard-sized school buses put together. That means if he were to come by and step on you, you would be deeply impressed by him.
That was another joke that didn't land, although I think it's actually the best joke of his that hasn't landed so far. Because I didn't laugh, but I was like, internally, I was like, oh, I get it. Yeah.
I almost smiled.
Okay.
I almost smiled.
For $2, DM KJV get book title wing. Says, go get a drink. That's actually closer. Drink is actually not that far off. All right, here we go.
You would be road pizza when he got done. Would you be depressed or impressed?
Also, Vishanti, I actually don't remember exactly what laser stands for off the top of my head. Sorry. I used to, but I just could never really memorize it.
Becky, you're the English expert, which is, you don't know. Find out for me. Secretary's supposed to know all that stuff, aren't you? This guy was big, okay? I tell folks, about my new invention that's going to save billions of dollars, for highway department and construction crews, and I'm going to be the richest man in the world because of this new invention. I've invented a shovel that will stand up by itself. You won't need to pay those guys to lean on it anymore. That'll save money for the Marines, won't it, brother?
Yes. We're making a joke at the expense of unions because mandated break times are ridiculous. You should expect all of your workers to work the entire time without any breaks, no matter what, because that's definitely the best thing for them and the project. That's a joke that didn't land. We're taking a drink. Look, it's one thing to have concerns about unions, because I mean, look, there is corruption in unions, and not everything that a union has ever done has been great. I'm still generally on the side that overall they seem to increase the well-being of the working class, even people who aren't in the union, because as they increase the sort of minimum treatment of workers in the union, people who are working non-union jobs will notice and are, if companies want to keep them at their non-union jobs, they're going to have to at least be competitive with the union jobs to some degree. So overall, I tend to be more or less pro-union, while recognizing that, yeah, there are unions who have done some pretty shady stuff in the past. However, this really is just, man, I wish road workers never took breaks. Which, no matter your feeling on unions, is a pretty shitty position.
Yeah.
They are out in the heat, in the rain, in the snow, doing a tough job that's not just tough in terms of, like, it's not easy to do road work, but, like, physically, that is a tough thing to do to your body. To go out there, dig all day and whatnot, and do all this road stuff and pouring down asphalt. It's hot, it's sweaty, it's often humid. And so, yeah, the idea like, ha ha ha, they shouldn't have breaks. No, you know what? Screw you, man. If you want road workers to not have breaks, why don't you go do it? Go do it for a day and see how you feel without taking a break. All right, the following member for 7 months and at the amnio level says, just wanted to say thank you for the great entertainment and education. I mostly lurk because this stuff goes way over my head. Also, I love pelagic tunicates. You were doing so well right up until the end, the fallen, but thank you very much.
Me too.
Pelagic tunicates. Yeah, Alex Marco says anyone who complains about that can go volunteer, or can it for all I care. Yeah, no, I'm completely with you on that one. I'm so sick of the whole like, people are lazy for, let me check. Oh yeah, taking a break. Vishanti for $5 says, I look forward to you saying the GI in pelagic the same way as you say it in GIF. I said it GIF that way just for you, Vishanti, just because you paid me to say it, and I know how you would want me to say it. So, there you go. Can't say I never gave you anything.
You don't have to have all the guys standing around. Job 40:19 says, He's the chief of the ways of God. Now, the Hebrew word reshith is translated beginning, chief, principal thing. He's the biggest animal God ever made. So this animal, behemoth...
I mean, even you don't think that's true, because the blue whale is bigger than any of the animals you've just cited. So, you can't say it's the biggest thing ever. You might be able to say it's the biggest land animal, but here's the other thing. It only has to be the biggest land animal known to the author of the text. And let's not forget, the author of this text isn't God, even if you accept the inspiration of the text. Right? The author of the text is some guy living in probably what's now like Israel or Palestine. So, like, no. And if you want to say that that person had a Brachiosaurus in mind, then you need to show that there was reason for him to know about a Brachiosaurus. Which means you need archaeological evidence of Brachiosaurus or unambiguous evidence of descriptions of Brachiosaurus. And I know I have a couple super chats. I'm going to get to them in just a second. Now, Bent, you've seen the Land Before Time, right?
Oh, yeah, a long time ago.
Okay. You remember Littlefoot?
Yes.
Okay. Now, do you remember Sarah?
Yes.
Now, she was a three-horn, right?
I think so.
Okay. So, now, there were also the Sharptooths who were hunting the dinosaurs, right?
I remember the names, but I don't remember seeing them.
Okay. But you remember the name Sharptooth?
Yeah.
Remember, that was sort of a name for just sort of like theropods generally, right?
Okay.
And three-horn was a name for like triceratops,
right.
Generally. Do you remember what they called the group of dinosaurs to which Littlefoot belonged?
I don't remember.
No? Well, if you guys watch it, you might remember. It was Longneck.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Now, they were sauropods, right? Now, when these people are making a dinosaur movie for kids and they're giving the dinosaur groups names that are easy to remember based on the physical features of those dinosaurs, did they call them cedar tails?
No.
Did they call them big guts?
Nope.
Did they call them iron bones?
No.
Nope, they call them long necks. Why? Because it's the most obvious salient feature of a sauropod is the absurdly long neck. Because lots of animals are big, lots of animals have long, big tails, lots of animals have strong bones, but very few have gigantic necks. Even giraffes don't come close. Hence, it kind of beggars belief that if the author of Job is talking about sauropods, at no point is the neck mentioned. Like, come on.
That is weird.
We hear about the strength of the creature being in the loins, which I'm not even sure what that really means, unless it's like a weird dick joke. But no, we don't talk about the neck at all. Nope, forget. Doesn't matter. Don't worry about it. All right, savage mammals evolved in the Eocene. Cobra for $5 says Kent took a 10-year government mandate break from his ministry. That's true. He did take a 10-year government mandated break from his ministry. Although, actually, I think it only lasted, like... sorry. I think it was actually only, like, 9 years and a few months. He got out a bit early for, like, decent behavior, because I don't know if he was a model prisoner, but, like, Kent's not the guy who's starting, like, you know, prison yard fights or anything. He spent most of his time in his cell writing really weird books, like What on Earth is About to Happen, the Bible and Prophecy, or whatever the subtitle is. Pibble Fossils a la carte punk for $2 says, no unions equal no labor rights at all, be grateful. Yeah, that's to a large degree true. Technically, laborers had rights before unions, because, you know, their employment was generally covered under contract law, and so technically you could sue for breach of that contract, but most laborers did not have the means to enforce those rights, and so effectively they didn't, even though on paper they did. So yeah, it's slightly more complicated, like everything is, but yeah, at a you know, a certain level of approximation, that's basically the case. Vandali 1998 for $5 says, have any sauropod fossils ever been found around the Middle East area? You know what? That's a great question. And so here's what we're going to do. We're going to go to PaleoDB, and we're going to find out. So let's go to PaleoDB. And we'll get the map going. Where's my map? There it is. All right. Let me switch to the other window. Let me just make sure I get rid of the opening video so it doesn't come back. Oops. Didn't mean for that to be there. Sorry. All right, so let's go with sauropod and sauropoda. There we go. And the question was Middle East area. So, whoops, that's not the Middle East. Here we go. But the answer is yes. Yes. Some sauropods are known from North Africa, especially Egypt, which is generally the Middle East. There's also some known from like the Levant area and parts of the Arabian Peninsula. We got at least one in Iran or over near Tehran. We got one in UAE. Got one in a couple in Saudi Arabia. So, yes, the answer is yes. There you go. Neat. See, I didn't actually know. I don't know all of the things that there are to know, believe it or not. Can you believe that?
Sound right.
I know it doesn't sound right, but it's true. Thank you for the question. It was a good question, and yeah, I didn't know. But also, PaleoDB is a great way to find out things like that, because you can just type in the name of any taxon, and it will restrict you to just that taxon. You can also use the thing at the bottom to restrict your time range. So, there we go. All right, here we go.
Is Resheth. Resheth, however, I didn't take Hebrew. I used to know a little Hebrew. He lived down the street, but he moved.
What?
I don't know, but it's a
I know that
joke
was a
that
joke
didn't
that didn't
land.
land. Yeah, what is that? I don't even know what you're trying to say. I knew a little Hebrew, but he moved. Did you know a short Jewish man?
I don't know what he's
Confused.
trying to get at.
If anyone understands what the joke was supposed to be, please explain it, because I don't even get what the point was. Like, that just put no information into my brain.
He's the chief. He's the biggest animal God made. That would have to be the Brachiosaurus.
Or the elephant. Because again, all we had to do to say, well, the Brachiosaurus is bigger, say, yeah, but the author of Job didn't know about Brachiosaurus, because, no one did.
Because they were extinct.
Jillian Wren says he knew a Jewish kid. Yeah, but that's not a joke, though. Saying I knew a Jewish person who moved and was short isn't a joke. It's just a thing that happened.
And he said it jokingly.
Yeah, but it was I just don't know.
I'm ready to move on from it.
Okay.
Or something like that. Maybe there's another one similar, bigger, Suprasaurus or something, but it's the same kind of animal. And this fits the pattern for the way the devil works.
Good to know that sauropoda is just a kind, according to Kent. All sauropods, one kind. Forget the fact that there's, like, way too many families in there for most creationists, but man, it's all of sauropoda. Maybe it's like sauropodomorpho, like maybe Plateosaurus can get in there too, who knows? And Jillian Wren says, are you expecting for Groucho Marx level funny from Kent? No, but like, usually when he tells a joke, I get why it's supposed to be funny. It's just not. With this one, I just don't get it. I don't see what the point is. I don't see where the humor is supposed to be from.
Whenever God makes things, the devil tries to destroy them. God makes beautiful things, and the devil tries to wreck them. For instance, God made music. God loves music.
Uh-oh. Are we about to hear about how metal is from the devil, and rock and roll is going to turn all your kids into, what is it, like promiscuous harlots or something?
Yeah, they've been saying that about music for centuries.
I swear, if he talks about miscegenation, I'm going to finish my drink right now. I don't think he will, because again, he's not that active in his racism. My goodness, I could see it coming, like him talking about miscegenation, which, whew. The thing that Great for $2 says, don't put more thought into the joke than he did. Yeah, fair. And Vishanti got a bingo. Congratulations.
Nice.
Richard Taylor says you can clean Hebrew the language with Hebrew the Jew. No, I mean, I get that. But, like, I just don't see why it's a joke. Like, where the joke is. It's like, if I said, oh, I knew an Italian guy, but he moved. Like, oh, okay. That's just a story about something that happened that no one cares about.
Carl Ball's got a neat book called Panorama of Creation.
Carl Ball.
He thinks, and he goes through all the physics in there, and I wouldn't preach it as doctrine, but it's very fascinating to study. He thinks when God first made the world, the canopy of ice or water overhead acted as a resonator, so that, especially if it was super cold ice, he says that...
Which it wouldn't be, because remember, a canopy of ice over the Earth is going to be receiving as much solar radiation as Earth currently does. Which means that you can actually go ahead and calculate its equilibrium temperature, and it's going to be higher than the melting point of ice or the sublimation point of ice, given that you're in essentially a perfect vacuum. Which means that the canopy of ice is actually going to be constantly sublimating off into space while staying at minimum, the freezing point of water, which is 0 Celsius. Right? So it's going to be 0 Celsius until it all sublimates away. That's it. It cannot be super cooled because the incident radiation from the sun is going to be hitting it just as strongly as it hits Earth. Now you might say, well, it's going to have a higher albedo, so it's going to be reduced a little bit. Okay, fair, but you can still work that out, and it's still not going to be super cold. It might even turn out to be just below 0, but it's still going to sublimate on the sunward side, because that won't be below 0. So, yeah. I'm not getting the pun, guys. People are trying to tell me it's a pun. Like, I get that it's probably some kind of a pun. I don't see where the pun is, though. So I don't know.
Break
Revenant
it down
Rye.
in Discord.
Revenant Rye for $1.99 says, God makes beautiful things like parasites. Yeah, there is that. And I've never heard a detailed explanation from a creationist as to how the creation worldview explains like tapeworms. Like, were tapeworms a good thing before the fall? Were Adam and Eve created with, like mutualistic symbiotic tapeworms or something? And which of Noah's family had tapeworms? And who brought the heartworms through the flood? Like, who did that? Because they can't just survive in the floodwaters. They need to be in a host. So did the wolf kind or the dog kind or whatever on the ark just have heartworms? Seems kind of crappy. But yeah, here we go.
Sound waves, the radio waves from the stars would hit this thing like a giant crystal, a tuner for a radio set, and cause it to put off a signal.
Ice is notoriously bad at being an antenna receiver for radio waves. So, okay.
So you could actually hear the music of the stars.
I feel like I don't need to explain why this is extremely dumb, even after you get over the fact that there is absolutely no physical way for an ice canopy to exist without crashing to Earth immediately. And that even if it could, it wouldn't last long because it couldn't stay cold. Vandali 1998 for $5 says, between the canopy of ice and the hydroplates, it's a miracle we are even still alive. It's true. Oh my goodness. Yeah. All right, so here's what we're going to do, guys. We're going to take a quick break, and we are going to switch videos. I'm going to refresh my drink, and we will be back shortly, a little bit less shortly than we would have otherwise because of my mistake. Sorry about that. And also, Revenant Rye says, also, God also makes beautiful things like pelagic tunicates. Gross. Look, if there's one thing that can make it's a compelling, conclusive argument that there is no God, or that if there is, he's a complete jerk, it's that pelagic tunicates exist. No loving God could be responsible for the horrors of a pelagic tunicate. It's just incomprehensible. All right, so we are going to be back in just a few. Stick with us, and you will be able to hear the musical stylings of, who is it?
Some guy
whose Patreon is linked in the description, who's named Bent Hovind. So if you want to get things like behind the scenes music files and stuff like that, or even pictures of recording sessions,
sounds
go
awesome.
check out the Patreon, and we'll be back, and then I'll show my Patreon. Okay, we are back. Welcome back, everybody. Thank you for sticking with us. Now, before we dive right back into this, I want to say a few things. One, of course, is that I cannot express how much I appreciate all my viewers who are the reason that this thing keeps on going. In fact, just recently, I looked at my analytics and I tried to see how many people have watched my channel over the last year, but for some reason, YouTube was like, nah, we can't give you that. So I said, just 90 days. It's over 24,000 people. Which, I mean, I have no idea how that stacks up against other channels, but I just gotta say, it is crazy to me that that many individual people were like, yeah, okay, we'll give this Dapper Dino guy a watch. Sure, some of them probably never came back, but like, it's crazy. And I want to say a special thank you to the people who are here, who are supporting the channel by becoming members, becoming patrons, super chatting, giving super thanks, super stickers, all those things. Getting something from the Amazon wish list, getting merch. All of those are great. Now, if you're like, hey, how can I support? Well, those are great ways. Consider if you want to do a monthly or annual, you can join the memberships. You can join the Patreon, which gets a little bit higher percentage to me, and also you can get a 12% discount for going annual on there. Either way, you get access to all my early access stuff, which is like 4.5 or 5 months or something of extra content. You can get in the credits, all sorts of cool stuff. Again, if maybe monthly or annual isn't the thing you want, there's also the merch store where you can get t-shirts, stickers, phone cases, blankets, pillows, all sorts of stuff. Mugs, hoodies, you can get those too. If no, that's right. There's also the Amazon wish list. Also, Bent has an Amazon wish list and a Patreon linked in the description. Go check those out too.
Yay.
And if you just can't afford it, or you're just not into having supporting financially, that is perfectly fine. Please just like these videos, share them with people you think might enjoy them, and then also comment on the videos. It helps immensely. So with that out of the way, I think we are ready to dive back into Kent with not great sound. Let's be honest here, but acceptable sound. We'll call it acceptable. That's what it is.
Before you start, I'd like you to share it with me. I can see it too.
Share what with you?
The video. Kent.
Oh, right. I did not do that. I am bad at this.
No, I think you're good at it.
Okay, can you see it now?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, in that case, hopefully we're good. Oh, Sean for $5 says, at work and can't watch, but wanted to get you a super chat in at least. Happy Freedom Day, Godzilla. You know what? We will take a drink for that Godzilla, because I know that various like phone apps and whatnot are not very good at getting the emojis in there. So we will take a drink. All right, here we go, Kent.
I don't know if it's true, but it sure preaches good. All right? The Bible talks about the music of the stars. Interesting.
I mean, I guess, but like, there is no such thing as the music of the stars that anyone has been able to find in any way that it uses a reasonable definition of music, right? You can say, oh, well, there's radio waves that emanate from stars that you could turn into sound waves. Yeah, but they're not music, right? Like, there's no, like, you can't measure their beats per minute. There's no meter that they're in. They don't use any chords or note progressions. Oh, and hey, there's Mothra. We'll take a drink from Mothra. Thanks, Mothra. All right. Also, that was about a business email. I'm working on business things.
Ooh.
Yeah, business. I'm taking care of business. TCOB.
God certainly made music. God made our ability to...
No, humans made music. Now, he's about to say that God maybe made the human ability to appreciate music. And, like, look, I don't know nearly enough about, like, the biology of music or anything, or the evolution of the ability to do music or anything like that. I'm not sure anyone does. And if you want to go with, like, God is the reason that humans can recognize beauty and like music, I'll just probably say, yeah, okay, sure, whatever. I don't care to have that discussion. But God definitely didn't make music. Humans did. All music that we're aware of was made by humans in the first place.
I make music.
Are you God?
No.
Are you sure?
I'm pretty certain that I'm not God.
All right, I'm just going to say that if God made humans in his image, you look a lot like a human.
Thank
so, I don't know.
That's
you might.
the nicest thing anyone's ever said to me.
You're welcome. Finn,
Kid.
who's been a member for a month and is at the annual level, says, Meep, ooh, I get one of these. What's your favorite gourd? AI's here a bag of micro ricks who get their ricks off to melon-eating dinosaurs. Take a drink for that. My favorite gourd? That's a good question. So summer squash is up there because it's delicious. But also pumpkin is delicious. I think I'll go summer squash because most of the time I prefer savory foods over sweet foods. And if I'm going to eat a savory gourd dish, I like summer squash more than pumpkin. So I think I'm going pumpkin. Bent, what about you?
For what?
What's your favorite gourd?
Oh, I don't know.
Just pick one.
Okay, I'll pick a pumpkin too. I'll copy you.
Well, I picked summer squash, but okay.
Son of-
But you can have pumpkin as your favorite gourd. It's a perfectly good
Done.
gourd. All right, there we
Done.
go. Ben's favorite gourd is the pumpkin. Okay.
Appreciate
not
music.
committing to
Nearly
that.
all
What's up? Sorry.
But I'm not committing to that.
Well, for now, you might have to think about it later.
of
Maybe
the
I
birds
will.
have some kind of song. You know, some of them pretty ugly in my opinion, but some of them are really pretty. A lot of the animals have certain calls to each other. Whales, for instance, can call each other 100 miles away. Incredible. The whales will holler, come home, honey, I'm sorry.
That was a joke that didn't land. That's generally not what they're saying. They're more saying, like, here I am. Often they're saying, hey, ladies, I'm right here. You could come get some of this. That's what most whale calls end up meaning.
Nice.
Yeah. They're basically just extended pickup lines for whales. Not always, but often. Soulcat for $2 says, aren't you a carnivore though, Dapper? Look, there are very few carnivores that never eat plant matter and very few herbivores that never eat meat. I've seen cows eat snakes, and I've seen plenty of carnivorous animals eat a bit of leaves or grass or fruit. In fact, Crocodilus niloticus, the Nile crocodile. Oh no, not Crocodilus niloticus. Crocodilus. What's the American crocodile's species name? Whatever. The American crocodile has been found with fruit in its digestive tract, partially digested. Is it most of what they eat? No. But do they eat it? Yes. So, yeah, there are very few carnivores that are strict carnivores and very few herbivores that are strict herbivores. In fact, I believe that's why, what was it? The prehistoric planet, I believe, had hadrosaurs that were eating clams. And that's actually based on some fossil evidence that there might have actually been hadrosaurs eating clams, which is meat. Because, yeah, just because you're primarily adapted for one food source doesn't mean that you turn up or turn down the other one occasionally. So, yeah. I do, in fact, eat plant matter from time to time.
100 miles away they can hear. And the music, all of nature seems to have music to it.
Only if by music you just mean sound. But that's not what music is. I could pick up that guitar that you can... No, you guys can't see it, but it's just off screen. You know what? We're going to make it so you can see it. Give me a second. Let me, There it is. See that guitar there, everybody?
Yeah.
I could pick up that guitar and randomly strum at it.
Yeah, you could.
Like, arrhythmically. Would that be music?
No.
No. It would be sound, though. So, yeah. Not all of music, all of nature is full of music. It's all full of sound, I'll give you that. DM KJV Get Book Title Wing for $2 says, whale. Also, whale song is interstellar communication. Good point. Yeah. So it's not just, hey ladies. Sometimes it's, hey alien ladies from across the galaxy who will be sending a weirdly cigar-shaped probe to Earth to boil off the oceans if they don't hear from us. How you doing? Which is
Sounds intense and like a very good movie.
Yeah, it was a great movie. So Vishanti is disagreeing and saying that music is sounds in time. I mean, by in time, do you mean like with a beat? Because that's not what nature's full of. I mean, it does have some things like that that could count, I suppose. Might be jazz, says the gay beat. Okay. Um, yeah, there's atonal music, but doesn't it still tend to have some kind of structure? Or maybe I just don't think atonal music is worth the title of music. All right, look, you know what? Maybe music is ill-defined enough that it counts. Maybe. I don't know. I'm not a musicologist or whatever you call it.
I don't know what they call it.
Which can all be reduced to mathematics and translates into colors, and that goes into a whole other long session we'll get into some other time. But
I'm sure we will. Savage mammals evolved from the Savage mammals evolved in the Eocene cobra for $5 says AIG is the garbage bag in an artificial phallus factory quality control department. Ooh, man. They're not even just a bag of dicks, they're the bag of defective dicks. That's rough. Taking a drink. And Vishanti does point out that this is her area of expertise, and she does in fact have a degree in it. And this is accurate. Well, I don't know. I haven't seen your diploma, Vishanti, so maybe you have a degree in music the way Kent has a degree in Christian education. Is it?
Yes, it is.
At least music's a real thing you can get a real degree in.
Can you get a degree in Christian music?
I hope not. Most things shouldn't have the word Christian appended to the front of them if you're getting a degree in them. Like, if it's like history, like you got a doctorate in Christian history, that makes sense. Or like Christian theology, that makes sense. But it's like, I get a degree in Christian filmmaking? No, stop. That's dumb.
God likes music, apparently. From everything in nature seems to have musical patterns to it. And Satan has twisted it with ungodly music that does not glorify God.
Here it is.
The Bible told us we're supposed to speak to ourselves in psalms and hymns and spiritual songs.
Okay.
I've had girls tell me, oh, Brother Hovind, I like music. First thing I do when I go to church, I look for the hymns.
Just girls, though. Kind of weird, but okay.
No, you're getting the whole idea wrong. You understand that, Steve? The hymns. The girls look for the hymns. Never mind.
Oh, that was a joke.
Oh, I get it.
I don't get it.
That's terrible.
But, okay. No, now I get it. Yeah, no, that doesn't work at all. That's terrible. I got it, though, unlike the Hebrew joke.
Explain that to him later, Becky. So you speak to yourself in psalms and hymns and spiritual songs, singing, making melody in your heart to the Lord. And here we got all kinds of music that does not fit into this category.
Uh-oh.
Some guy asked me one time, he said, Brother Hovind, do you know what you get if you play country music backwards?
Backwards country music.
Get everything back.
No. He said, you get your hound dog, your wife, and your pickup all back. Oh, yeah, backmasking. I heard about that.
Drink.
You know, this playing music backwards, and it's supposed to have a meaning to it. Anyway, God invented marriage and the family and sex. God made them male and female.
I'm so sad that he didn't actually specifically call out rock and roll or metal.
I know. I'm disappointed.
Yeah, come on, Kent. Do better. Or worse. I don't know if that's worse or better, really.
And he understands it real well, and he puts some rules down. Boys, you don't touch the girls until you're married to them. 1 Corinthians chapter 7. And I tell them, if you don't want to touch the girls, you stay away from me. I saw your kind in San Francisco.
Oh, we'll take a drink for more casual bigotry. Thanks, Kent. Hey, Kent. Just like not every woman wants to have sex with you because they're, or every straight woman, I suppose, not every gay man wants to have sex with you. In fact, I was going to say probably none of them, but then I realized that I actually have good reason to think that at least one man who has sex with men has had sex with Kent. So I guess it's not no one who's male wants to have sex with Kent. But yeah, just hooray for the casual homophobia from a guy who, I'll remind you, almost certainly has had some gay sex. And by that I mean like in the last 5 years. So, fun times.
But God put the rules down.
Which, by the way, I wouldn't bring up if it weren't for the homophobia. Right? Like, if someone was just like, oh, hey, I had an affair with a guy, I'd be like, well, the affair part kind of crappy, but like, I don't really care that you had gay sex. It's not something I concern myself with, unless you're going to go around telling people how evil all the gay people are. Then it's like, oh, okay. Mark Smith says, what about us aromantic asexuals? I mean, look, presumably you don't want to have sex with Kent anyway, or anyone else. I feel like that's part of the point. Although, I guess technically it actually means that you don't really experience sexual arousal normally. It's actually not true that asexual people never have sex. They just don't do it for the reason of they find some particular person arousing and want to have sex with them. They usually have other reasons, like they want to have a kid, or they want to make someone happy, and so they do that because they know that's what they want. And as long as it's consensual, I don't really care. But yeah, I don't also want to pretend that just because that no asexual person has ever had consensual sex, because they have. It has happened. So yeah, there are reasons to want to have sex with someone other than, being aroused by them. So it's complicated, like everything in life.
Because he wants the very best for his creatures. The ideal situation is for a man and a woman who've never touched each other, get married as virgins, and live together for a lifetime.
Actually, it's not all that clear that that's the case. There is actually studies indicating that never having sex before marriage actually tends to result in worse outcomes for your sex life when you're married, because you're trying to figure all of it out right there in the middle of this committed relationship. Now, I'm not going to say that it can't work out if you do that. I definitely know couples who seem to be doing just fine, who at least claim that that's the case for them. So I don't want to tell you how to live, but I'm just going to say that there is contra evidence to the idea that this is simply the ideal. So, yeah. Eric Hamian for $10 says, it is true that some asexual people will never have intercourse, just not all. Yeah, basically. Yeah, look, the world is full of people who have a self-identified sexual preference who have then gone outside of that preference in their actual real-life behavior. That doesn't make their self-identified sexual preference incorrect, right? That's just how it is.
That's God's perfect plan. Anything other than that will cause some kind of problem somewhere along the line. There'll be distrust, there'll be arguing, there'll be fighting. It'll weaken the tremendous marriage bond that God intended people to have. And God said, this is what I want you to do.
Except again, there's actually reason to think that that exact formula actually can result in weaker marital bonds than other situations, right? Yeah, like there's reason to suspect this is not the case on evidential grounds.
The Bible says the adulteress will hunt for the precious life.
I also want to point out here, I'm going to take a drink for it. Adultery and fornication aren't the same thing. Adultery is cheating on your spouse. That's a very different thing from having premarital sex, as Kent might put it. It's not at all the same. And even if you are okay with sex outside of marriage, as I think most people probably are, unless they have a religious reason not to be, that does not make it so that you're okay with adultery, which I think most people are not okay with. And you can say, well, what about open marriages? And I would just say, I think if both spouses are okay with it, it doesn't count, because it's not cheating at that point, because you're both okay with it. And cheating means breaking the rules. So if you're not breaking the rules, you're not cheating, and I would say then it's not adultery. So there you go. Adultery is stepping outside the bounds of the marriage that you set up with you and your spouse, and it's not okay.
Many people go from partner to partner to partner to partner, get married, 20 times, or don't even get married. Just
which marriage is Kent on right now? Is it number 4?
4.
Okay, well, it's not 20 at least. I'll give him that. But I'm pretty sure we're going to get some irony coming up here in the next few minutes.
Live with them for a while, get sick, and go to another one. They're hunting for the precious life. The precious life is to do exactly what God said. You find the right one, you both get married as virgins, and you end up living together the next 75 years, and that's the precious life.
So, Kent, how's that precious life going for you there, buddy?
The adulteress is always hunting.
Sorry?
Not ideal for him.
No, it's not.
For that. And I would advise young people, even if you don't understand it, even if your friends aren't doing it God's way, you just read what this book says and do it. That's what I did. When I was 16, I got saved, and I was reading this Bible, and the Bible says, keep yourself pure for marriage, and all my friends, of course, are bragging about all their exploits. What about you, Hovind? I said, man, I'm going to wait for God's best. He said, you don't know what you're missing. Well, you're right, probably right. I'll find out. Now they're on their third wife and paying alimony all over the country. And
oh, man, their third wife. That sounds terrible. Can
That's
you
a lot.
imagine being on your third wife there, Kent? Oh, wait. No, you can't imagine being on your third wife because you're convicted of beating her, Kent. Yeah. Yeah, we'll just take a drink for the amazing amounts of irony in hindsight that has now occurred. Yeah, as Vishanti said, this aged like milk. Yeah. Which is weird because milk solids can age really well into cheese, but then milk itself is just like, nope. Does not age well. Ugh, Kent. I kind of wish that someone would go to Dinosaur Adventureland and play this for Kent. And be like, so say, Kent, what do you say to this? What's your reaction to these words from you?
I'm still on my first, trying to train her.
Oh my goodness, there's just some more casual sexism, which is hurting my brain, so we're just going to drink for it again.
It does hurt. I hate it when he says stuff like that.
Yeah. Look, as a general rule, you shouldn't be training your spouse unless it's a very specific circumstances, like you're a gymnastics coach and your spouse is a gymnast or something. Then sure, train your spouse in the thing that you're coaching, I guess. That's fine, whatever. But generally, no. You should not be using the word training of your spouse as if they're some kind of dog or something. Savage Mammals Evolved in the Eocene Cobra for $5 says, it's amazing how often the Bible contains the current Christian fad verbatim. Yeah. Here's the thing, right? Christian fads come and go. And they especially come and go in groups that are sola scriptura. Because what sola scriptura actually means is, like, just me. It's not just the scripture, it's just me, because I'm the one who gets to read these scriptures and interpret them. And so, whatever you think is the case, you're just going to find proof text for. It's one of the reasons why I think the perspicuity of the scripture is the most obviously wrong idea in all of Christianity throughout all of history. It's just on the face of it, obviously nonsense. The scriptures are do not have any perspicuity. They're not perspicuitous. Is that a word? Perspicuitous?
I don't know.
All right. I don't know if it's a word either, but I'm going to say it's a word for now. So yeah. And it's true, right? Like when basically slavery was largely unquestioned in the Christian world, there were lots of proof texts to say that slavery was just okay. And when Christians started saying, oh, maybe this is not okay, maybe we shouldn't be doing this, they found lots of proof texts to say they shouldn't be doing it. And you know what? I'm not going to tell you which one is the right way to read the Bible. I don't think there's one right way to read the Bible. You can say this is or isn't the authorial intent, and I think you can get at authorial intent pretty easily. But I'm also not so much of a authorial intent uber alles kind of guy that I think that authorial intent is the be-all and end-all to reading a text. And I think that if you find meaning in a text that it is not in line with the authorial intent, doesn't negate that you found that meaning there. So, yeah. You should read the Bible if you're going to read the Bible in the way that is the least immoral and the most moral and is the most helpful to not just you, but to especially those who are less well off than you, or those who are currently being oppressed or persecuted. You should try to read the Bible in a way that's the best for them. So, yeah. And DM KJV Get Book Title Wing says, no kink shaming. Am I kink shaming? Who did I kink shame? What did I kink shame?
Did you?
I don't think so. Maybe the training thing? Oh, okay, the training thing. Okay, yeah, look. That's another example where you can train your spouse, I suppose. Is in those terms. I got there. Look, okay, fine. That also is an exception. Still, though, generally speaking, outside of your kink life, in your vanilla-facing world, don't use the word train of your spouse, generally speaking. Didn't mean to kink shame.
It's a little rough sometimes, but anyway. The adulteress hunts for the precious life. Okay, the next verse, and we got to quit here soon. The Bible says God created great whales and every living creature. Now this would indicate to me that God made the dinosaurs.
Why? The things that weren't mentioned at all? Okay, sure. Well, I guess.
Exodus 20:11 says God made everything in 6 days.
That, I guess, would indicate dinosaurs, because at least everything would include dinosaurs.
Would.
So that would mean dinosaurs also made in 6 days. Now, since God created the dinosaurs, Satan decided he would try to use dinosaurs to teach boys and girls a lie. And that's what we've seen in the last 150 years. Kids get books about dinosaurs, and the first sentence in the book says, anybody want to guess what it says? First sentence. Millions of years ago, right?
That was a joke that didn't land. What is the day with jokes
I don't
not
know why-
landing?
I don't know why that's funny. It's big number, therefore funny.
Yeah, basically. I mean, that's the level that Kent operates on most of the time, is big number, therefore funny. Right? He's not exactly the deepest thinker.
That's true.
So, like, look, I've long said that, yeah, if the biblical authors had been aware of dinosaurs, then they probably would have put dinosaurs, if, again, they also intended to make, what do you call it? Genesis a literal history account, which I'm not convinced of. But if they meant to do that, and if they had known of dinosaurs, then yeah, they probably would have put dinosaurs in the same day as all the other land-dwelling animals, right? Sure. I do think that's probably what would have happened. But it's just not significant, because one, there's no evidence that the authors of the Bible knew about non-avian dinosaurs. There's no place where it's obviously talked about them. And even if they did, we would still have to make sure that they had their knowledge on the basis of living animals versus fossils. So all of this is pretty silly. Plus, on top of all of this, all that finding non-avian dinosaurs in historical times would do would say, oh, hey, look, I guess some non-avian dinosaurs survived the KPG extinction. It has nothing to do with whether or not evolution is true, whether or not the Earth is billions rather than thousands of years old. It has nothing to do with whether or not the Exodus happened, whether or not Adam and Eve were real, whether or not the flood happened. None of these things would that be evidence for. And so, yeah, I don't get the point of harping on this so much, because even if it's true that there were dinosaurs that were called dragons in like 13th century Europe, it just doesn't help the case for young Earth creationism. It just really doesn't. So I don't get why they are so hung up on it.
So here we have Satan using God's creatures to teach kids a lie. Satan uses beautiful things that God makes and destroys them, and with them destroys humans. Okay? How many people have been destroyed because of misuse of something God made?
I don't know. 4?
A lot. It's unreal the things that happen because we just don't obey that book. So God created dinosaurs. Now the devil couldn't use dinosaurs to fool Adam. Suppose God would have come to Adam and said, hey, did you know dinosaurs lived millions of years ago? Adam would say, what are you talking about, you idiot? I saw God make them. Read Genesis chapter 2. Adam saw God make some of the creatures. One of each creature. Now, the rest of the world's already full of animals. We get into that on a video.
Wait, where in the text? Look, I get that you want to read the text as if, like, God made the animals that Adam was naming in that section, like, as he's naming them, but that's not in the text anywhere. It doesn't say that anywhere. You can have that interpretation, be like, well, I think that's how it worked. Okay, great, but, like, you can't use that interpretation as, like, further evidence of something. Just building on it, right? Like, it doesn't work. That's not what the text says. This Kent's whole thing is so bizarre to me. I just don't get it. Maybe I'm not supposed to. Maybe this is not information for me. Maybe that's what's happening.
That's possible.
But the thing is, like, there was a time when I was an unironic Hovind fan, when I believed the things he was saying. And I'm now thinking, like, did I just not pay attention? Because even on the face of it, this doesn't work. But then again, oh, I just screwed up the chat. Sorry about that. But then again, I do remember even when I was a young Earth creationist, there were things that young Earth creationist speakers said that I was like, hold up, this doesn't work like, this isn't internally consistent. Now, I didn't put it that way because I was a kid, right? But like, that was my thought process. Like, this doesn't actually make sense on its own terms. Oh, Jillian Red said, I am laughing ridiculously hard at, I don't know, 4? Good. Good. All right, here we go.
Number 7 about the supposed contradiction between chapter 1 and chapter 2 of Genesis. There is no contradiction there.
I mean, there is, though. Because in chapter 2, Adam and Eve are created before plants are created. And in Genesis 1, plants are created before the land animals are created. So, like, what? And then man is just made with the other land animals as not a special creation. Well, not a special creation, sure, but not as a separate, on a different day at a different time creation from the other land animals. So, I mean, there are contradictions. And look, you can come up with weird harmonizations if you want to, but if you read it at face value, the way that young Earth creationists like to say that you're supposed to read it, just the plain meaning of the text, then there absolutely is a contradiction between Genesis 1 and 2. So, I don't know what to tell you. That's not the only contradiction in the text if you read it at face value. You say, oh, but, you're just trying to find contradictions. Yeah, that's because they're there. And I'm sure you can come up with some kind of post hoc rationalization as to how it's not a contradiction. But then you're just not reading the plain text, and you're not using you're, again, demonstrating that there is, in fact, oh, goodness, sorry, computer sounds there. And then you're just demonstrating that, in fact, the perspicuity of the scriptures is actually fake news, if you will. So, yeah. So, yeah, I don't, kind of all there is to it. Now, here's the thing. I am seeing if I can get the July credits done for today before we actually end this. What do people think? Do you guys think? Send Cecil tunicates if you think I can do it. Send pelagic tunicates if you think I can't do it.
I guess that answers the question for me.
Oh, how dare you. How very dare you. All right, I just have to make sure let's see, put it in this folder. I'm going to call it July, if I can spell July, cred, right? .mkv, there we go. And I'm going to hit the render button, and we'll see what happens. Although I'm honestly insulted by all these people who are putting in pelagic tunics. How dare you not believe in me? Landon Knoll, there we go. Landon, my man, in with all of the Cecil tunicates. Oh, there we go. We're getting Ian debunked. We're getting an iffy Cecil tunicate from Maverick Ronin. Good. I'm glad to see these Cecil tunicates come to the fore.
Adam actually saw God make one of each of the animals. The only person who did not get to see anything made was Eve. Guess who the devil came to tempt?
That is such a ridiculous stretch. Oh, man.
But he's holding up 6 fingers, so therefore he must be right?
I don't know. I'm taking a drink. That whole story was just nonsensical. It was very dumb.
Yeah.
Vishanti, you don't think I can get this video done? Just for that, I should delay closing out the stream until after it's done. Just for that.
Eve. Adam had seen God do it. He knew what God could do. And we've got a whole generation of young people today that have never seen God do anything in their life. Second generation.
I mean, that depends on your theology, right? Like, my understanding from most Christian, if you look at systematic theology and most sort of Christian ontological concerns about the nature of reality and whatnot, would say that God is actually the foundational aspect of reality, and that reality only exists in so much as God causes it to constantly at every moment, which means that if that's true, which again, from my understanding, is more or less the default for philosophy and Christianity, that everyone has seen God do something. Now, most of those things are consistent with most non-theistic, ontological frameworks, which, okay, but it's still not technically true under most Christian philosophical frameworks to say that most people have never seen God do anything. What they haven't seen is miracles. But not everything God does constitutes a miracle, according to most Christian philosophical frameworks. So, yeah, I mean, just a minor thing. However, I want to say that I'm pretty sure I just did get it done. So everyone who sent a pelagic tunicate, pretty sure you're now, in fact, wrong. Because I did manage to get July credits.
Worth it.
I just have to figure out where the heck I put them. Because, let's see. Did I put them? Yep, I put them in the Dapper Dinosaur, February credits, January. There we go, July. Okay. So now it should work when I go to the end credits. Presumably.
Nice.
Yep, it might have no audio, it might not actually work, but we're going to find out together. So here we go.
Christians often have a problem. Mom or dad get saved and they see God just work miracles and change their life and make them, a whole new person. And then they have kids and kids get saved when they're 4, 5, 6 years old, and they don't ever see God do anything. Little David, when he was out there going to kill Goliath, Saul said, "Here, take my armor." David said, "I can't take it."
Okay, but what about Elhanan? The first person said to have killed David Goliath in an even older book. Justice for Elhanan, the OG Goliath Slayer. And if you don't believe me, I mean, check it out. Look up Elhanan slew Goliath. It's a thing. But then in a later book, it says that Elhanan slew Goliath's brother. It's almost like there's another one of those contradictions in the Bible that you have to read more things into than the Bible actually gives you in order to resolve.
Like maybe Goliath was his own twin?
Maybe. So, yeah.
That's not unlikely.
Yeah, we'll take a drink before we get another Bible contradiction that Kent's just going to gloss right over.
Take this armor. I've not proved it. We've got an awful lot of people who are running around in their parents' armor. And I would encourage young people everywhere, get your own armor.
All right, Benthic Tunicate B2022 has just gifted 5 Dapper Dinosaur memberships. Then went to Slack Black, Gregory Nitsky, Nicole, Luca Meduno, and Revenant Rye. We will take 5 drinks. Thank you very much. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Now that raises an interesting question, because I am very close to owning a 3rd in a row Dapper video with feathers. But I'm not sure if we actually do. So let's grab my calculator and add up how much we've had in Super Chats, plus how much we've had in memberships. And in fact, let's see. Not quite. We are currently $11 away from a 3rd Dapper Dinosaur in Feathers video and a tutu video for next week.
Tutu. Oh,
so
yeah.
If y'all want the pink tutu, you have about 14 minutes or so to get in another $11 worth of Super Chats and gifted memberships.
That's doable.
Oh, yeah. Okay, here we go.
Get you get close to God yourself. Don't rely on your parents' Christianity to keep you going. You get close to God and you ask God for things, and you get your own.
And there it is. Arachamian just gifted another 5 Dapper Dinosaur memberships, which brings us well past the pink tutu number. So there we go. And those went to Fred, Hedgeblog, Thurbin, Chesh, Binge Thinker, Enobi Way, and Helen R. Thank you very much. Also, way to keep lurking in here, Chesh. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Also, Vishanti, you might want to be careful with that much emoji spam, because Google has had a history of just removing people's Gmail accounts who over spam emojis in chat. So, like, it's not just that it's pelagic tunicates, which is obviously disgusting, but, like, also just be careful. Olivia Williams for 279 beaver bucks says, "Feathers, I do my part." Thank you very much. All right, here we go.
Armor. So anyway, textbook says millions of years ago dinosaurs roamed the earth, and kids are swallowing this up. This all started about 100 years ago. 1841, they made up the word dinosaur. 1809, they found the first one and put it together, the iguanodon. Some of those will be quiz questions. The dinosaurs then became very popular in the early 1800s.
I mean, yeah, dinosaurs are cool.
Mid-1800s. There were companies going out racing across the countryside trying to find dinosaurs. There was real competition.
The Bone Wars, real thing. And it wasn't so much companies as it was different museums, which are mostly like non-profit, and some of them are sort of like government-ish owned kind of things. But like whatever, it's the same deal. It's fine.
Some guy named Marsh and another guy, I forget his name now, they were...
Edward Drinker Cope. But he got the Marsh part right, so we'll take a drink. It was Marsh and Cope. And in fact, the Bone Wars are well named because it got to the point of dynamiting other people's dig sites.
Ooh,
Yeah. Like,
golly.
geez. Like actual terrorism, basically.
That's harsh.
Yeah.
They were fighting each other over who gets the most dinosaurs, who gets the biggest dinosaurs, and bringing them back and putting them up in museums. The American Museum, the Chicago Field Museum.
Yeah, it's actually to the point that a large proportion of known dinosaur genera were actually described by either Marsh or Cope. They also like both published on the same genus a few times, and then like whoever published first is the one who eventually got the name. But yeah, there's, especially in American dinosaurs, there's a huge proportion of the American dinosaurs known that were first described by Cope and Marsh. Or Cope or Marsh, I suppose. I don't think they jointly discovered any. Savage Mammals Evolved in the Eocene Cobra says, was this made in the 50s or can he not count? Well, definitely wasn't made in the 50s because there were no like VHS video cameras in the 50s. I think this was actually made in like the early 2000s, like 2003 or 4 or something. Because before he went to prison, but I'm pretty sure it's after the 90s. So like, yeah, kind of something like that. But yeah, look, we know he can't count. That's been well known for years now. He's mathematically inept, and he's probably functionally illiterate, from what I can tell.
The Smithsonian, they're putting up these huge dinosaur skeletons, and people are coming around from all over the world to see these massive dinosaur skeletons in the late 1800s. At the same time, people began teaching Darwin's theory. 1859, his book came out. And at the same time, they said, the Earth is millions of years old, and these dinosaurs lived millions of years ago. So that all happened in the late 1800s.
Tesla Ranger says VHS was invented in 1976. So it definitely wasn't the 50s then.
And for the last 120, 30, 40 years, kids have been taught dinosaurs lived millions of years ago.
I mean, yeah, because all the evidence points towards that.
Mm-hmm.
Little thing like that. Mark Smith for $2 says, at least he admitted he didn't know something. Yeah, that's a rare thing for Kent. So, I mean, good on him.
And it's just not true. Are there any books like this in our town?
Yeah, Kent, it's a whole town. You live in Pensacola at this point. Of course there are books that tell the truth about dinosaurs somewhere in Pensacola.
Maybe at the library.
Probably also at bookstores. Was that
all of the above?
Was that long enough ago that there wouldn't be a Pensacola Amazon warehouse?
I don't have any
Hard
idea.
to say. Yeah. Because, I mean, remember, Amazon started as like a bookseller, and like they didn't have warehouses in every single major city at one point. I remember when Amazon was just like basically competition for Barnes and Noble.
Mm-hmm.
And now they're competition for basically every retail store in the world.
Yeah.
Benthic Tunicate B2022 for £5 says, can't count. Let's be honest. Can't anything if it involves a brain. I'll say at least if it involves a cerebellum. Like, clearly his brain stem is working. So,
he's breathing. His heart seems to be beating.
Exactly. Like, his brain stem is doing just fine. But yeah, his cerebellum, cerebral cortex, all that stuff, nah, not really doing its job.
If you watch TV, nature program, Discover, National Geographic, are you likely to hear something about millions of years ago?
Mm-hmm.
Sure you are. Millions.
This is just like flat earthers talking about how upset they are that TV shows and movies show a globe for the Earth. Like, it's part of the propaganda. No, man, it's not part of the propaganda. It's just everyone who isn't a complete idiot about this topic knows that this is how it works, and that this is just how the world is, and so that's how they portray the world, right? Or you'll also hear like chemtrail conspiracy theorists like, man, did you know that the game Grand Theft Auto puts chemtrails in the sky? It's like, no, man, they put contrails after planes because that's how the world looks. No, this is propaganda to get us to accept the chemtrails. Okay, buddy, sure. Just at that point, it's like, what else do you say other than, okay, buddy, sure. Would you like some juice? I have a juice box for you. Harvey M for $5 says, AIG is a sack of Soyuz space rockets. You know what? Those are phallic enough that I will take a drink. Yeah, rockets actually have a strong tendency to be at least vaguely phallic.
Yes, last night. Everybody's being taught this, and that's why it's such a mission field. Last verse and we'll quit here. The Bible says, he lieth under the shady trees in the covert of the reed and fens. The word fens means the swamp.
Yeah.
So here the Bible is telling us Behemoth lives in the swamp.
Oh, we'll take a drink. That was true.
Well, the biggest swamp in the world is in the middle of Africa. It's called the Likwala Swamp.
Hence, what does someone saying something lives in the swamp have to do with where the biggest swamp is, or what lives in that swamp?
Nothing.
Okay, let's do another example. The most fearsome reptile in South Carolina is the alligator. It lives in the swamp. Does this mean it lives in the swamp in Africa? No, it's the American alligator. It's alligator mississippiensis. It doesn't live in Africa. Even if there's a bigger swamp in Africa that I suppose hypothetically it could live in. This doesn't make any sense. And all he's going to say is like, well, that's where Mokele Mbembe is found. Okay, great. Tell me how the apparently Chinese author of the Book of Job, writing in Hebrew, because that's what you think happened, Kent, is that somehow the Chinese author of the Book of Job is writing in Hebrew, knew about a swamp in sub-Saharan Africa so that he could tell you about the Mokele Mbembe. I would be fascinated to know how this works. And yeah, if he says Mokele Mbembe, we're taking a drink for predictions. Benthic Tunicate B2022 says, AIG are a bunch of Elon Musk clones. Oof. I'll take a drink for that. Man, that would be... I think that might be worse than what they actually are.
It's 55,000 square miles.
Cool. Big number
That's
there for
bigger
God.
than the entire state of Florida.
Okay.
Most Americans don't
I mean, most of Florida is already a swamp anyway, but sure.
understand how big Africa is. There's what Africa looks like next to America. It's gigantic.
That's true.
There have been, and by the way, that swamp is bigger than any one of those yellow states. It's the same size as any of the red ones. A swamp as big as Florida.
Hey, whoever's editing this, when he's talking about the slides, you should show the slides.
Right.
Which you've done in the past, so I don't know why you're screwing it up this time. Also, guys, we're going to go till the end of this. It's probably not going to take us much overtime, but it might take us a little bit overtime. Does that work for you, Bent?
Yeah, that's fine.
Also, it's a good time to ask, are we doing Power Rangers?
I don't think so.
No Power Rangers today.
No
Sorry,
Power
guys.
Rangers.
The federal government says the swamp is 80% unexplored and they own it. Imagine an area the size of Florida, 80% unexplored. There have been reports of dinosaurs still alive in that swamp today.
Come on,
right
say
now.
it. Say it.
We'll get into that in the next class. Dinosaurs still alive.
Say Mokele
I don't want you to
Mbembe.
get excited and think you need to be careful when you leave this building because there might be a dinosaur out
Oh,
there.
he's not going to do it.
Well, there are quite a few in our yard, but they're all fake. I'll just tell you right now, okay? So we'll
Don't forget
cover
the
next
birds,
week.
Kent.
Yeah, there's a lot of birds outside. That means there's a lot of dinosaurs outside. But Ken doesn't know what a dinosaur is, so he doesn't know that birds are dinosaurs.
Dinosaurs that are still alive. That's been a fascinating study of mine for years called cryptozoology. We'll get into that next week. Thank you.
Okay, well, that is the end of that. I'm disappointed he didn't actually say Mokele Mbembe, because we all know that's what he means. But hey, that's that. Thank you very much for everyone who's here, for everyone who watched. Bet, do you have anything you want to announce about anything that's coming up in the future? Do you have any like new music drafts or anything that's going to drop on your Patreon or
Well,
something?
there was a song that I was working on in Klingon, and I've released a copy of it. So you can find that in the link below on the Google Drive. It's also posted on my Patreon, but it's to the public, so anyone can see it on Patreon. You don't have to be a patron to see it.
Nice. Well, there
or
you
to
go.
download it.
So go check Ben's Patreon out, even if you don't subscribe, because there are public links there too.
There's one public.
Okay, there's a public link there.
But yeah.
DM KJV Get Book Title Wing for $2 says, even Kent knows birds aren't real. Yeah, good point. They're drones. All the birds were replaced by drones during the Kennedy administration. If you guys don't know that, then wake up, sheeple. All right, let's take a look at what's coming up here on the channel. So on Thursday the 6th, that's the 6th of July, 2023, we are going to be having the second part of the Creationist Who Can't Math series about Jeffrey Tompkins. The first part did pretty well. I'm hoping the second part does at least as well. So please do be there for that. It will be hopefully a lot of fun. Let's see. On Saturday the 8th, Gish with Vish. I'm going to have Vishanti on. We're going to take a look at a Dwayne Gish. It's going to be number 1. Thought Dapper Reacts. Now, okay, is there a significant difference in the format of Dapper Reacts versus Gish with Vish? No, but one of them is a pun, so take that. That's all I got for you on that one. That's about as far ahead as we're going to look. Both of those shows are starting at the same time as this show started. That is noon Pacific, 3 p.m. Eastern. If you're in one of the other time zones, do the math. I think that is it for us. Once again, thank you very much. I appreciate everyone who's been here. I hope you all have a wonderful American Independence Day, or if it's another holiday, which it is in many places, enjoy that holiday. And if you're not celebrating a holiday today, then I hope you have a great Tuesday, or Wednesday if you're like in Australia or New Zealand or something. So there you go. All right. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Hey, before you leave, I just want to take a second to thank my patrons and channel members, especially those pledging $20 or above. Bob Knob, Bent Hovind, Tapioca Weasel, Denny5252, Elleron Teller, Phil Cavara, Ian Chen, Kelvin Brostic Van Manen, Landon Knoll, Mabdy Babby, Monkey They Them, San, Sphincter of Doom, and the Venerable Bede. It's because of my channel members and patrons whom you're seeing on screen that this channel can stay afloat. Without you, it would all shut down. If you want to join the team, there's a link to join the channel below this video, and there's a link to join the Patreon in the description. On the Patreon, you can get a 10% discount for pledging annually, and either way, you get early access to virtually all of my scripted videos, often 3 to 5 months before